King's Disease is the name of Nas's last two albums. They've been praised for their lyrical depth, unique compositions, and compelling themes. But King's Disease is also an Old English phrase for gout. Today, gout is a disease associated with poor nutrition and obesity. But hundreds of years ago, only the wealthiest people were able to eat and drink enough to suffer from gout. Most people were half starving to death. Accordingly, the disease and the phrase are commonly associated with Henry VIII. When Henry was a youth, he was a powerful and active athlete with a huge appetite for food, booze, and women. His appetite for wives was so fierce that it split the Catholic Church in two. But after a severe jousting injury, his appetite didn't subside, and as a result, the king became morbidly obese. Now, Nas has never been known as a glutton, so how does he apply this theme? He's likely referencing how fame and success can lead to excess, fast spending, fast cars, and rich food. It can fatten you up, slow you down, and generally weaken you. So although the album cover depicts the iconography of a glorious royal feast, King's Disease is also the general burden of power. It can alter your perspective of reality. It can even drive you mad. In the first world, most people have access to plenty of food, and most modern citizens struggle more with getting access to healthy food. So it's no stretch for a middle-class American to eat and drink enough just to get gout. In other words, this King's Disease is now the people's disease. But this video is not about diets and clean living. Not every doomed king ate and drank themselves to death. Some were crushed by the weight of the entire kingdom loaded on their shoulders. Every piece of legislation, every legal discourse, every legal debate landed at the king's feet. But unlike the king, very few people in medieval Europe could read and write. So peasants were deprived of both nutrition and education. So the overwhelmingly ignorant masses relied on the government and the church for both bread and knowledge. However, with the advent of the printing press, literacy accelerated in Europe. As a result, spiritual and intellectual autonomy grew for both individuals and principalities. In fact, the increasing literacy may have been more responsible for the Protestant Reformation than Henry VIII's promiscuity. The proliferation of new and old ideas wasn't just educational. For many, it was a spiritual awakening, but for some, it was an opportunity to wrestle power from the papal hegemony. When the internet debuted, many assumed it would have a similar impact to the printing press. But a closer look at history reveals that the printing press was not an entirely benevolent innovation. While the explosion of knowledge was followed by the Enlightenment, democracy, and the Industrial Revolution, it also led to widespread conflict in Western Europe that lasted over 300 years. When Martin Luther posted the 95 Theses to the Wittenberg church door, he could have never imagined it would go viral, nor did he foresee the violent conflict and persecution that would succeed it. The internet and social media have democratized the digital publishing process. Like the printing press, there is both good and bad result. For good, it allows the truth to spread and makes it harder for governments to suppress unfavorable information. However, it also makes it easier for people to spread negative, harmful, and divisive information. So what will people do with this freedom? Will they evolve and use it to improve their lives? Or will they lash out violently at the puppet masters revealed behind the shadows? But more importantly, people have access to more information than they may be able to handle. The benefits of free knowledge may seem endless, but so does a surplus of food until you eat yourself into an early grave. If you eat more calories than you can burn, you'll become a beast and suffer ill health. If you consume more information than is useful for your everyday life, you'll take on a king's burden without any king power. Just as fish and red wine can cause flare-ups in those afflicted by gout, information can inflame the masses.